Our next speaker is Jeff Govendo. Jeff Govendo is representing the Massachusetts Coalition to Save Darfur, which is one of the sponsors of this event. Jeff has been extremely helpful with planning this event and getting the Mass Coalition on board. Jeff is on the steering committee for the Massachusetts Coalition, and he's also the membership coordinator. So there are papers on the last table over there. If anybody's interested in getting involved with the Mass Coalition, you can just sign up to be a member. Jeff is also the Social Action Chair at Congregation B'nai Shalom, where he is working with the interfaith community on the Tents of Hope project. And as I mentioned before, we have a Tent of Hope over there. Feel free to decorate it, helps so we can send it off to DC. So please give a warm welcome to Jeff.
Hello everybody, can you hear me? All right. All right, well thank you. I want to thank Congressman McGovern and people from his office, Joe O'Brien, and his staff, and the student interns, Rachel Kotler and Suchi Mitra, for putting this great rally together. It's great to see everybody out here for such an important cause, and thanks for inviting me to represent the Mass Coalition. The Mass Coalition is an alliance of both secular and faith-based organizations around the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as well as thousands of individuals, all dedicated to bringing an end to the genocide. I have personally been involved with the steering committee to the Mass Coalition for about 2 years, and I want to say that I have never worked with a more resolute, dedicated, single-minded group of people in my life. It's been a real privilege working to help put an end to the violence in Sudan. The genocide is now entering its 6th year. Now, you have all read the appalling statistics. Depending on the source that you're reading, anywhere between 300 to 450,000 people murdered. 2.5 million people displaced from their homes, living in some of the most deplorable conditions in the world, in refugee camps in Chad and the Central African Republic. Many of these people will never be able to go home again because their lands have been destroyed and their wells have been poisoned. Young women and girls are raped by the hundreds or the thousands every day simply because they're out looking for scarce firewood. And this is not simply an unfortunate outcome of war. It is a planned, strategic war plan by the Janjaweed, the paid militia of the Sudanese government, to spread terror and destroy the fabric of Darfur's society. This is the situation that we find ourselves in Darfur right now. In July of 2007, the United Nations authorized the deployment of a 26,000-man force to keep the peace in Darfur, to quell the violence long enough for a political solution to be realized. But on the 1-year anniversary of the authorization that just passed, barely 1/3 of the required number of peacekeepers have hit the soil in Darfur, about 9,000. And those that are there are woefully under-equipped. They lack the equipment that they need. They lack the vehicles, the ammunition, the guns, the helicopters, even the necessities of everyday living. And a big reason for this is the obstructionist tactics of the Khartoum government. They don't want the peacekeepers there. And this is what we must speak out against. Now, New York Times writer Nick Kristof, who is one of the most eloquent and forceful voices in support of the people of Darfur has observed that one of the difficult problems in garnering widespread, sustained support for ending the genocide is the sheer enormity of the conflict. It is very difficult for people to wrap their minds around this number of people being killed and displaced daily. So Nick tells stories of individual men, women, and children, people that he has interviewed in the desert to find out what has gone on in their lives. And he tells the story of the woman whose infant son was beaten to death while being carried on her back by the Janjaweed. She talks about the man who himself carried his own gravely wounded brother 49 days in the desert to reach the relative safety of the camps. And he tells the story of the 5-year-old girl trying to play mommy to her 1-year-old sister because their real mommy was killed in a raid by the Janjaweed. Take these stories, multiply them by the thousands, and you have an idea of what the tragedy of Darfur is. It is a tragedy that we have seen many times over the last century. We saw it in Armenia almost 100 years ago. We saw it in Nazi Germany 65 years ago. We saw it in Cambodia, in Bosnia, in Rwanda. We saw it in southern Sudan just a few years back, perpetrated by the very same government that we're dealing with now in Darfur. And each time the world responds the same way. We say, enough, never again. But it keeps happening again and again. And that's why we are here. That's why I joined the Mass Coalition. Because I can no longer sleep peacefully knowing that yet another genocide is unfolding before us. That's why Congressman McGovern has been such a tireless and persistent voice in the U.S. Congress against the genocide. And it's why we must keep speaking out. It's why we must say about this genocide and all genocides, no more, not now, not later, not ever again. I want to tell you 3 things that you can do right now and in the immediate future to help the people of Darfur. Number 1, be an Olympics activist for Darfur. As you all know, the Beijing Olympics are starting in less than a week. And as you're probably aware, there is a connection between China and the Sudanese government and this genocide. China buys 80% of Sudan's oil, and that money funds the genocide. And to make matters worse, most of the arms and munitions to carry on the genocide are purchased from China. So we have to make our voice heard. And one way to do that is to do what thousands of Darfur activists right now are doing. They are going to www.dreamfordarfur.org and they're taking a pledge not to boycott the Olympics, just boycott the commercials. Because the money that is pouring in from companies that support the Olympics is helping to fund indirectly the genocide. When thousands of people stop watching the commercials, and those are very expensive TV moments, the powers that be take notice. So I urge everybody here to go take the pledge, www.dreamfordarfur, and you can tune in to an alternate webcast during the first week of the Olympics to learn more about the genocide in Darfur. I guarantee you, you will learn more from that webcast than you will from a Coca-Cola commercial.